Welcome to Paris. We travel because we fall in love with people and places. 10 good reasons is all it takes. 10 reasons that awaken all our senses. Let us discover together, admire, grasp, breathe in and savor the best of Paris. Reason number 1, the Eiffel Tower. Welcome to Paris, a romantic and melancholic city that should be on everyone's bucket list. Sitting on the banks of the River Seine, among many gardens, promenades and architectural monuments, Paris needs quite some time for exploration. The best way to see whole Paris at once is from the Eiffel Tower, with its height of 324 meters, antennas included. The so-called Iron Lady has watched over the city since the 1889 World Expo. A stunning feat of art and technology, the tower was built over a span of 2 years and was put together from 18,000 pieces crafted with millimetric precision at a remote workshop and then fastened together with millions of screws and bolts on location. Its lifespan was supposed to be 20 years, but here she is, still vibrant and iconic. Its detractors feared that it will dwarf Paris's other architectural sites, such as la Cathédrale de Notre Dame, l'Arc de Triomphe, l'Église du Sacré-Cœur, le Panthéon, l'Opéra Garnier, la Conciergerie, les Invalides, le Palais du Luxembourg, l'Hôtel de Ville, l'Institut de France, le Musée d'Orsay, and many stunning churches, such as la Sainte-Chapelle, l'Église de Notre-Dame du Val-de-Grâce, Saint-Germain-de-Prés, Saint-Sulpice, la Madeleine, or its palaces, like the Palais Bourbon, le Palais de Louvre, le Palais Royal, le Grand Palais, le Petit Palais, and the list goes on and on. But instead of diminishing these monuments' grandeur, the Eiffel Tower only helped enhance it by offering a bird's-eye view, unthinkable back in 1889, that shows the city's treasures better than any other way. The Eiffel Tower has 3 different levels from where you can fully observe the city without any obstructions in 360 degrees. From the Esplanade, which they themselves call their Wonder Level, you can reach the Explore level with a glass floor, the Amazement level with the Brasserie restaurant, and ultimately, via a glass elevator, the Vertigo level, at 276 meters, which also includes Gustave Eiffel's restored office. The Eiffel Tower is a must. Reason number 2, the Seine. The River Seine crosses Paris in its entirety, an artery that gives the city its life and oxygen to breathe. Its name is believed to be the goddess of the river, and many a treasure was found at its bottom. As much as the Seine infuses Paris with life, it was also often its Achilles heel, allowing seafaring invaders to reach the city. The island sitting in the middle of the Seine, the Île de la Cité, is the birthplace of Paris. It houses the Cathedral of Notre Dame. Hopefully its future will be brighter, and the Seine will once again be a Summer Olympic venue in 2024. But what would be the river without its bridges? 37 of them, in Paris alone, to be more precise. Among these, 2 stand out more prominently for their history and artistry: the Alexander III Bridge and the Pont Neuf. Alexander III's Beaux-Arts building style and Art Nouveau decorations make it the prettiest one in Paris. Technically, the arch is held down by the large columns of the golden statues. It unites the Champs-Élysées area with Les Invalides, near the Grand Palais and the Petit Palais. By comparison, Pont Neuf goes much farther back, being the oldest one standing in Paris. It unites the Île de la Cité with both banks via a 5 and a 7 arches section. Today, a fully renovated bridge stands in front of us, finalized in 2007 for its 400th anniversary. Pont Neuf was the center of Paris for centuries. The Seine was painted countless times by famous French masters such as Corot, Matisse, Monet, Seurat, Sisley, and Renoir, among many others. Reason number 3, Notre Dame. Since the 15th of April 2019, one of the world's most impressive Gothic cathedrals, Notre Dame, has closed its doors after fire spread rapidly and caused considerable damage, collapsing the spire and damaging the outer roof and upper walls. The interior was protected somehow by the stone ceiling, a vaulted medieval construction dating back to the 12th century. During the efforts to extinguish the fire, many modern procedures were impossible to use, as it was paramount to cause as little damage as possible to the interior and to protect the works of art. A major concern was the weight of the bells, since their fall could have collapsed the entire building. Fortunately, the arduous work of many firemen saved the 2 bell towers and a good part of the windows. The efforts underway today to rebuild the entire cathedral might take decades, but there is optimism as to its reopening in the next couple of years. The cathedral of 5,500 square meters and about 70 meters tall was started in 1163 and almost completed in 1260, and has been regarded as a masterpiece of Gothic architecture, together with its outstanding art pieces, including sculptures, rose windows, pipe organs, and 10 church bells. The famous French author Victor Hugo wrote in the 19th century the novel we call in English The Hunchback of Notre Dame, bringing additional notoriety to the church and helping its previous restorations. For people of its faith, the cathedral holds some of the most revered relics of Christendom. Its restoration is expected to be loyal to the original, as required by its status of a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Reason number 4, the Louvre. The Louvre is regarded as the largest museum in the world, and its collection amounts to over 38,000 art pieces, covering centuries, actually millenniums, of human creative endeavors and development. Before you go, though, here are a few tips. For starters, get there a bit before the opening at 9 a.m. It'll only get fuller by the minute. Make your own itinerary and look for what interests you the most. You will not be able to take it all in one day. Try to move against the current. Start with the end. You'll thank me later. The museum has 10 departments: the painting collection, the sculpture section, the collections for Egyptian, Greek, Etruscan, Roman, and Eastern antiquities, plus the decorative, the graphic, and the Islamic arts. The sculpture section is most impressive, stunning art pieces in 3D that date back hundreds and hundreds of years, and which are as relevant today as they were in their time. The winged Victorious Samothrace stands at the top of one of the main stairs. You can't miss her. Venus of Milo stands in a rather dark room of her own, and the crowd gets heavy. Take your time. Don't miss Canova's Psyche revived by Cupid's Kiss, a classic from Napoleon's time, or the Sleeping Hermaphroditus, a Hellenistic piece, resting on a marble cushion, added later by Bernini. Mona Lisa is also a must. Follow the signs. Her room is in the Renaissance section, where you can also see hundreds of other stunning works by Da Vinci himself and all other masters of that period. The Louvre was a royal palace for centuries, and, without a doubt, one of the Louvre's main attractions is its architecture, interior and exterior. The unexpected and controversial glass pyramid that serves as a main entrance has gained its place today as an iconic Parisian landmark, and marks the beginning of the Tuileries and of Paris's historical axis. Reason number 5, fashion. Over 300 years ago, Louis XIV dreamed of a France that will be known for centuries for its sense of style, beauty and fashion. Little did he know, French fashion has paved the way ever since. An unending line of couturiers and fashion designers have shaped the French style. I will only go as far back as the start of the 20th century, when Paul Poiret and Jean Lanvin made their mark with designs that are still very fancy and stylish today. Poiret introduced the kimono code, making away with corsets and petticoats. Jean Lanvin created an empire between the 2 world wars, from having started as a children's clothes designer. Her brand is still operating today. Then came the innovators of the likes of Coco Chanel, who made women comfortable and chic, and Dior with his post-Second War revival of the French allure. The line of designers of French haute couture is very long. Giving rise to some of the most exclusive fashion houses were Yves Saint Laurent, Christian Louboutin, Roger Vivier, Louis Vuitton, Jean-Paul Gaultier, Pierre Cardin, Balmain, Givenchy, and many more. Paris has recently seen the reopening of the Samaritain department store. Owned by LVMH, Louis Vuitton's parent company, Samaritain comprises 3 buildings with outstanding architecture and with a large number of eateries and restaurants where you can sample the best of French cuisine. The restored Art Deco buildings are superb. Reason number 6, the Impressionists. Many museums around the world have Impressionist paintings, but Paris has the most and the greatest. The first Impressionist exhibition took place in 1874 with Monet, Pissarro and Degas as founding members, and the movement spanned about 2 decades from the mid-1860s to the mid-1880s, but left an enormous impression on all of us. Their aim was to capture, mostly outdoors, the ephemeral moment of light transiting through the day while modern life happened. Notable Impressionists are Edouard Manet, Claude Monet, Auguste Renoir, Berthe Morisot, Camille Pissarro, Edgar Degas, and many others. Post-Impressionists, working in the next 2 decades, were some of the most famous artists we know to this day, including Georges Seurat, Paul Cézanne, Paul Gauguin, and Vincent van Gogh. They took additional liberties in modifying shapes and colors to express their momentary feelings. The Louvre still has a select number of pieces of Renoir, Degas, Cézanne, Sisley, Toulouse-Lautrec, and Monet, while the bulk of its previous collection is now on display at the Musée d'Orsay, opened in 1986, which includes the largest collection in the world of French art pieces from all the art movements of the 19th century and the start of the 20th. The museum is housed inside the old train station of La Gare d'Orsay. The Musée de l'Orangerie is today the home of the 8 very large water lily paintings by Claude Monet, and also includes post-impressionist pieces of Matisse, Modigliani, Picasso, and others. Reason number 7, Versailles. For about 100 years, Versailles was the de facto capital of France, during Louis XIV and his next 2 successors. The Sun King was its main creator. The royal palace was built in stages, including expansions destined to house all Louis's court and government, while later on adding more housing, new wings, and the Hall of Mirrors, finished by 1681. The palace's chapel took about 11 years of ongoing works to be finished in 1710. Louis XIV's successor, his grandson, added his own improvements about 20 years later, including new royal apartments and the Royal Opera of Versailles, which was only completed in 1770. The next 2 decades ended Versailles' leading role as a royal palace with the beginning of the French Revolution. During Louis XIV's reign, the palace's role was to show the world a level of power and sophistication unseen until that time, thus promoting the king's prestige and positioning France at the forefront of Europe's arts and culture. Although time-wise his efforts were limited by wars and finances, his dream's relevance lasted historically, thus altering the perception of the country forever. After all, there are very few such impressive examples of art and style bravados in the world. France abolished the monarchy temporarily in 1793, and all the artworks from Versailles were taken to the Louvre, while the content of the palace was auctioned off. Later rulers, King Louis XVIII and King Louis Philippe, conducted further significant improvements, and later the palace hosted a few important political events. The Hall of Mirrors went from being a hospital to later becoming the site of the Treaty of Versailles that put an end to the First World War. Most of the palace's renovations to what is seen today were done through the Rockefeller Foundation, including the repurchase of the original furnishings. In more recent times, a terrorist attack and a cyclone damaged it further, but improvements continued, with the gardens being replanted in 2003 and the damaged Hall of Mirrors and the Royal Opera redone by 2006 and 2009. Today, the palace is a public establishment run by the French Ministry of Culture as a museum, and is listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Louis XIV also built the Grand and the Petit Trianon, 2 additional palaces open to the public when visiting the Versailles. Reason number 8, Moulin Rouge. The year 1889 marked the 100-year anniversary of the French Revolution, celebrated with the city's hosting of the World Exposition and the unveiling of its most recognized icon, the Eiffel Tower. That same year opened the Moulin Rouge, a cabaret still functioning today in the Pigalle district south of Montmartre. Its claim to fame is twofold. The establishment was built with a red windmill on its roof, and it created the can-can, a scandalous dance where female dancers showed their undergarments in public. In today's day and age, the can-can seems rather prudish, since the undergarments were very elaborate and hidden between layers and layers of lacy petticoats, but back then that was very audacious. A very illustrious patron of the Moulin Rouge was Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec, one of the most prominent French painters, who immortalized on canvas the atmosphere of the place in its heydays and its most beloved dancers. During the next over 100 years, some of the biggest singers in the world performed at the Moulin Rouge, including Josephine Baker, Charles Aznavour, Maurice Chevalier, Edith Piaf, Lena Horne, Ella Fitzgerald, Jerry Lee Lewis, Frank Sinatra, Liza Minnelli, Dean Martin, Elton John, and many others. The current show, called Fairy, has been performed since 1999 and can be booked with or without dinner. Personally, I strongly suggest you to watch the movie Moulin Rouge before you go. Reason number 9, butter. There is a consensus globally that every food tastes better with butter, and I agree. The fault lies with the French. There even is a term called monter au beurre in French cuisine that involves incorporating cold butter at the end of the cooking process to add shine and taste to a dish, mainly sauces and purees. I only mention butter as an excuse to shine the light on some of my French favorites, starting with breakfast. There is nothing more French than a croissant. Its pairing with a cup of delicious coffee is the best way to start your day. Wait a minute though. The croissant, as we know it today, seems to be a rather novel creation, and a French response to the fast food obsession of the last century. So, how was it invented? The beginnings of the croissant are as mysterious as they can be, but ultimately, eventually, a kipferl was made with laminated dough, and voila! Croissants are mostly baked from frozen dough, which doesn't make them any less delicious, au contraire. Butter ends in many other French dishes aside from sauces. It is used for baking, frying, and whatever not, from drizzling it on lobsters or dunking escargots into it. Let's not forget though the macaroons, an Italian invention that made it to France way before the croissants were invented, about 500 years ago. Filled with buttercream, these minute mouthfuls of goodness reached perfection in France by the hands of Laduré's pastry chefs, such as Pierre Hermé, who also opened later his own Maison Pierre Hermé and is considered the best pastry chef in the world. Bon appétit! Reason number 10, champagne. There are so many different kinds of wines that I asked myself one day, how come that the French champagne has become such an iconic drink? Well, I looked it up, and it seems that it attracted the attention of an influencer of its times, a king of France, crowned at Reims in the region of Champagne. Over 1,000 years ago, mind you. Well, it figures it had to be a king. The original was a pink wine of Pinot Noir grapes, and the bubbles happened unwantedly, making the Champenoise winemakers very unhappy. Even the Monk Dom Pérignon fought with them. It took centuries until after the demise of the Sun King for the bubbly wine to become truly popular. Still, properly taming the sparkles inside the wine bottle was a technological feat only achieved in the 19th century. Veuve Clicquot was at the forefront of the invention and of an expanded production of champagne, followed closely by Pommery, Krug, and Bollinger. It took one more century, past insect infestation, frost, fraud, lack of regulations, local strife, prohibition in Russia and in the United States, and 2 devastating world wars, to see champagne finally flourish into what it is today, a popular sparkling beverage linked to celebrations and luxury, an emblem of sophistication, and a French symbol of its refined and upscale wine production. Let me know which one is your favorite. Cheers! Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please don't smash any buttons, just gently like and subscribe for more. The world is vast and it's all yours. Next time, you might also want to fall in love with this next destination over there. Thank you.